Elias Pettersson, the Canucks don't want EP. So it was recently speculated that Pettersson may not be willing to re-sign, but now Friedman just said that the Canucks might not be willing to commit to him. How are they so incompetent? That comes to us from Reese. So yeah, there was this weird tweet from 32 Thoughts, or just weird quote from Friedman, or from his podcast, 32 Thoughts, that the Canucks have also indicated that they're not sure. If there's any doubt Pettersson is not sure he wants to make a commitment, I'm not sure the Canucks want to make a commitment either. What that? Like that makes no sense. I'm sorry. That makes absolutely no sense. So apparently the Canucks might not be willing to commit long-term to Elias Pettersson, like their franchise center, by far most talented player, like since the Sedins. That is, I hope that Friedman's just talking out of his ass, because if that is the case, I feel horrible for Canucks fans. And by that, I don't think that like the Canucks are like, we don't want to resign him, period. I think they're saying that we don't want to give him a $11 million a year deal quite yet, because he hasn't really proved stacked multiple elite seasons. But when looking at the Canucks, it should be their number one priority right now to re-sign Elias Pettersson. I don't think I'm shocking anybody with that take. That he is the franchise. Quinn Hughes is definitely the captain, but Elias Pettersson is your best player. He is going to be the guy that if you end up going on a deep run, he's going to be your Conn Smythe winner. He's going to be your face of the franchise. When looking at Elias Pettersson, the only reason that I think this could make sense is if the Canucks think maybe we don't make the playoffs this year, is it time to just blow it up? I guess that could make sense, just because given the nature of they've been so unsuccessful the past 5 years, would they hit that reset button? The problem that I have with that is if you're going to trade Elias Pettersson, you got to trade Quinn Hughes as well. What's the point of keeping one when they're 1 year apart? It's not like Quinn Hughes is 20 years old and Elias Pettersson is 26. They're 24 and 23. They go hand in hand. So if you're not willing to commit to Elias Pettersson and give him a long-term deal, what are we doing? What are we doing with Quinn Hughes? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you trade Elias Pettersson, you got to enter like a nuclear rebuild, which they just have not seem to be willing to do. Based on all indications, they traded away Bo Horvat. We thought, hey, they're finally getting some assets. They're finally thinking about this long term. Then they go out and trade for Filip Hronek, which I think was a solid deal. I think Filip Hronek's going to be a good second pair defenseman for them, but it didn't make a lot of sense. It did not make a lot of sense to basically kick your captain out and then trade even more assets for another guy. Just really weird. Just really weird. And you look at the Canucks salary cap structure, they don't have any money like committed long term. That's the other thing. It's not like they have this packed salary cap sheet. They have Quinn Hughes signed 4 more years at 7.8. They have JT Miller signed 8 years at $8 million. But besides that, their longest contract is Connor Garland, 3 years, 4.95. So yeah, I don't really get the hesitation here unless they're willing to blow it up, which I think it'll be very interesting. I personally think the Canucks are going to be a pretty solid team this year. I have them at 94 points. But if they miss the playoffs, you do have to definitely look at potentially blowing it up. If they're healthy and they miss the playoffs, last year's disaster with Boudreau, midseason gets fired. They have a bunch of front office shakeups. I understand last year was a mistake. Not a mistake, but just an utter failure and just a disaster. But if they don't make the playoffs this year, I think you may potentially have to look into trading Pettersson. And Pettersson would get you an absolute haul. If you traded Pettersson and Hughes, that would net you like 4 first-round picks and like 2 to 3 very good prospects. Not saying it's going to happen, but it's definitely something to monitor. And considering this quote from Elliotte Friedman, something that could potentially happen down the road, but definitely not right now. I think they should lock him up. I think they're absolutely clowns for that. But let me know in the comments. What do you think? And moving on